What's up, everybody? This is Metzger's lecture on the nitrogen cycle. All right. This video should be pretty quick. We're gonna kind of skip through quite a bit because there's only so much that you need to know, right? The nitrogen cycle is something that you could teach a whole class on, especially for like an hour a day kind of thing throughout the year. This could take us the entire year to really know the ins and outs of this, okay? So I'm going to go through most of those slides again just because I think it's important for those of you guys that are really interested and like to pause the video and look at that stuff. I want you to be able to do that, but I don't want everybody to think, oh my goodness, this is so overwhelming, because really this isn't, okay? It's a simple process for us because we just need to know that there's a bad kind, there's a good kind. We can only take the good kind. Moving on. Okay, so we'll move through, take a look, see if I can get this PowerPoint to work. Okay, so nitrogen is super important, okay, for all things. Okay, all organisms require nitrogen. Plants, animals, bacteria, whatever, because it's in our DNA. Okay, our DNA and our RNA, and in turn our proteins. Okay, so thinking about what our DNA is, okay, that's not one of our standards this year, okay, but DNA is in all of our cells, just like how we were talking about how all of our cells need energy, right? And so the mitochondria gets the oxygen, gets the glucose, turns it into ATP and carbon dioxide, okay, and water. All of our cells need nitrogen, right? Because DNA is in the nucleus of all of our cells. DNA is like the genetic code. It's what makes us us, okay? So the reason that I am me and a dog is because my DNA is human DNA, right? A dog's DNA is dog DNA. It's very similar because we're both living mammals, okay? But our DNA is different. So we need to have DNA in all of our cells, right? So we've talked about, like, if you scratch your face, you look at your nails, you don't really see anything, but you just scratched off a bunch of cells, right? Your body is constantly replacing cells, so you constantly need nitrogen, okay? Well, fortunately, 78% of Earth's atmosphere is nitrogen, right? We've talked about how nitrogen is the most common gas in the atmosphere. People usually say it's probably oxygen because we need to breathe oxygen. Yeah, you're right, but nitrogen is also super important. So the same reason you think that oxygen should be the most common gas is a reason why nitrogen is, right? Because all of our DNA needs this nitrogen, so it is very important. We just don't necessarily need it in our lungs for cellular respiration, right? Because we just learned that our lungs bringing in oxygen is a process that helps cellular respiration continue. So we need the nitrogen just for different reasons than we need the oxygen. Okay, so thinking about starting a fish tank, right? All living things give off waste, right? So pee and poop. Our waste is nitrogenous, okay? So it has nitrogen in it, and it breaks down into ammonia, okay? It's hot, it's toxic. So if we look at this, we see a little process. I'm going to skip through because this is just so focused on the fish tank, and we're going to kind of look at the whole world. But the reason why we cannot use nitrogen in its normal form is because it has a triple bond. Okay, so if we're thinking about the valence electrons on the outside of nitrogen, okay, nitrogen has 5 valence electrons, okay? So if we're looking at that, they're creating a triple bond on one side where we can see that 3 electrons from this nitrogen and 3 electrons from this nitrogen are going to match up, okay? So if we think about it like a bond that could have 1 bond, right? We could break that. A bond that has 2 bonds, yeah, we could break it. A bond with 3 bonds, we're just getting stronger and stronger and stronger. So in its natural form, it's just super compact and stuck together. It's hard to use, okay? It's kind of like the noble gases. It doesn't really want to react with anything because it's stuck together and it's happy, right? When we take it in, we need it to want to react with stuff, right? Just like when we take in our oxygen, it has to go into our cells with the glucose, and it has to be able to go through cellular respiration, right? If we take this nitrogen in and it's in a form where we can't have it bond with anything, then it's not really usable for us. Okay, so we need another way to be able to get this nitrogen in a form that we can use. And when I say we, I mean living things in general. Okay, we cannot break it down, but bacteria can. Okay, so in order for plants and animals to be able to use nitrogen, it must be converted to a more chemically available form, such as ammonium or nitrate. Okay, so don't get confused. Ammonia is different, NH3, right? Now we're saying NH4 ammonium, okay? And then nitrate is NO3. For anybody that's like, what the heck? Oh my goodness, don't even worry about that, right? We're just saying it was in a bad form, and now we need to get it in a good form. Okay, really, that's all we need to know. Okay, don't just say, oh, that's all we need to know, stop listening. No, don't do that. But that's the terms that we need to be able to think in. So when you're seeing all those letters and all those big words, think, oh, those are the bad ones, these are the good ones. Okay, so bacteria can break this into a good form. We call that nitrogen fixation. So if we see this, you've ever seen something like that before, those are like roots, right? So we've got some, I think those are legumes growing on roots. This PowerPoint's going to stop working. Okay, so we can have biological or environmental or humans, different ways of doing it. There's a lot of totally random ways. Lightning is actually one. Okay, so a biological way is bacteria. Okay, so nitrogen fixing bacteria are found in the roots of a lot of plants. Okay, they have a relationship with the host plants. Okay, so what that means is these bacteria hang out on the roots, and the roots don't try to get rid, like the plant doesn't try to get rid of the bacteria, because those bacteria are there taking nitrogen from the soil and turning it into a good form. Okay, so they're taking like the bad form nitrogen that we can't use or that plants can't use and breaking it down into a good form. Okay, and you might say like, well, why? That's just that's their process. That's their chemical process that they do. It's kind of like saying, well, why do humans and animals do cellular respiration? It's how we do. It's how we've evolved. It's what we've done to survive, right? So these bacteria, they do this process, and in turn, the roots have no reason, or the plants have no reason to try to get rid of this bacteria. It's not a harmful bacteria, right? So those bacteria have a place to live, right? It keeps them safe, whatever, and in turn, they provide the plant with nitrogen that can be used, okay? So in like fish tanks, the algae, like if you ever see algae on your fish tanks, that is something that's fixing bacteria too. You might say, then is algae good in your fish tank? A little bit's okay, but you don't want a ton, right? So environmental ways, this is really cool. Okay, so high energy events can naturally break the triple bond in nitrogen. Okay, so examples, lightning. So like a lightning strike will turn the soil, all the soil where lightning strikes in that area, and the air as well, the nitrogen goes from that bad form into a good form. Another way is forest fires, right? You might say, well, forest fires are bad. Well, forest fires are bad for us nowadays in a lot of sense because of like community planning and whatnot, like where a lot of houses are. The world wasn't really planning on having 7 billion people live on it, right? So forest fires are a natural thing, right? Forests would burn naturally. And you think about, well, why? Well, one easy reason is this right here. That is a natural way of nitrogen fixation. It helps produce new life. Those old growth trees that burn, that soil becomes really nitrogen rich and new growth would come from that. And then hot lava flows is another way. So hot lava coming out of a volcano, that does do nitrogen fixation as well. And that's because these events have so much energy. Okay? So then we do this as well. So burning fossil fuels, using synthetic nitrogen fertilizers, cultivation of legumes, so like peas and stuff. Those naturally have the nitrogen fixation, so bringing that up fixates the nitrogen, so it takes the nitrogen from the bad form and turns it into the good form, right? But again, having too much of this is bad, okay? So looking at this, oh my goodness, big old picture, right? So the red lines are human activities, the green lines are natural activities, okay? So like the red, it's coming out of the power plant, going out of the air, that's like stuff that we produce from the power plant, like fertilizer that's going into that. So looking at the green stuff, like the animals' waste, right? And then we have the like the roots over here where the nitrogen fixation bacteria is happening, where again, thinking it's going from the bad form to the good form, right? So we're looking at lightning, we're like, oh, the air has all this nitrogen in it, right? The N2, but we can't use it. Lightning strike takes it from the bad form, turns it into the good form. Now the plants and animals can use it. Okay, looking at the roots, right? There's all this nitrogen in the soil. It's the bad form, we can't use it. The bacteria around these roots take it. They take it from the bad form, turn it into the good form, right? So we call it nitrogen fixation, but really what that means is going from the bad form to the good form, okay? Kind of skip through a little bit. This is the main thing that's happening, right? So taking it from this bad form and turning it into a good form, okay? That same kind of picture again. Talking about us taking up nitrogen, eating plants, right? We get a lot of nitrogen from eating plants. Too much is very bad. You can cause kill-offs in water supplies. Like if there's too much algae, right? That blue-green algae will cause blooms, and that'll suck up all the oxygen out of the water, and there's nothing left for the animals to live in. The oxygen is all taken out of the water. So like if you've ever heard of like fish kill-offs, it happens out at Sparks Marina sometimes, where like just hundreds of fish will die, and it's actually because there's not enough oxygen in the water for them to breathe. So kind of sad, but that's a human problem. Or sometimes, you know, like if there was just too many fish in the water at the first time, then they pooped a bunch and it wasn't able to get that like natural flow. The bacteria weren't able to keep up with the fish. That can also cause those kill-offs. Too much nitrogen in humans, like in the bad form, like natural fertilizers and whatnot, and water supplies, causes respiratory problems in people. That's not good. Too much smog, greenhouse gas, acid rain. Don't want to get too crazy. I just want us to know we're thinking about how the atmosphere is 78% nitrogen, right? And in its natural form, we can't use it. Plants and animals can't use it. So like we talked about how cool the carbon cycle was with photosynthesis and cellular respiration, because plants and animals balance each other, right? Well, in this sense, like plants and animals for the nitrogen cycle, like we're on the same team here. Like it's not like we can help each other. We're like on the same side. Like we need somebody else to help us, right? So like the natural ways, like the lightning strikes, the lava flows, the forest fires, that will naturally do it. And then other ways, like those bacteria, right? The nitrogen fixing bacteria that take it from that bad form and turn it into a good form. Okay, so that's the main idea. That's what I really want us to get from this, that the atmosphere has all this nitrogen. We can't naturally use it, but there are ways that it breaks down to forms that we can use. Okay, bacteria are some ways, lightning strikes away, forest fires, lava flows. Okay, and without that, our DNA wouldn't have all the nitrogen that it needs. So that is a very, very, very crucial piece of life. If this didn't happen, life would not be able to thrive the way it does now on Earth. All right, guys, get those questions answered. Please, please, please go back through your old assignments. Make sure you get everything turned in, because grades are done this week, okay? It's the end of the quarter, end of the semester, so finish on a strong note. Have a good week. See ya.